All right. So it is another episode of the Xbox Stew podcast. I am one of your hosts, Randall Thor 19, the man with the million. And with me, as always, the one and only Joseph Seed, aka Jez Corden from Windows Central. What is going on, Mr. Should I call you father from now on, or what's going on here?
Ooh, that's a bit weird. Maybe not father. I don't know. It's better than daddy. I
Better than
guess.
daddy.
What you call me off here?
Oh,
Oh no joking. Um, yeah, I'm pretty good, man. I've had tons of coffee, so I apologize in advance if I shout and talk over you. But I'm so hyperactive right now that I feel like I might drop down and have a heart attack in any minute. But it's been a good day, man. It's been a good day. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I have the Xbox Truth Police after me, so I'm constantly like looking over my shoulder to make sure they don't catch up to me and torture me. It's been good, but it's kind of stressful. I'm like constantly looking over my back, because nobody wants the Truth Police after you, right? Especially
No.
the Xbox Truth Police.
Yeah, that's some hardcore policing that those guys are doing. Instead of like having a life, having a girlfriend, or having a job, they
Mhm.
police the plastic box truth. That's important. It's important to some people, I guess. But oh well, I've got your back, buddy. I've
That's
got your
right.
back,
We'll,
and
we'll
and the fans of the podcast, they have your back too, man.
yeah.
It probably.
If you guys want to see that, make sure you check out my Twitter where I put. It was a comment about my Sea of Thieves video where I talked about the success the game has seen, and yeah, apparently the guy didn't like that. I don't know what he wants because he says the Xbox Truth Police, but then all of a sudden he's like, the Xbox is gonna die. It's like, okay, you know what I mean? Um, anyways, there's that. I'm sure you guys are wondering what's on docket for today's episode. There's a lot of stuff to talk about. No Man's Sky. Who would have thought is making its way to Xbox? We're going to talk about that in depth. Sea of Thieves, a lot of information about it. Breaking Xbox records, 2 million players, and also someone got Pirate Legend. So we're actually going to talk about how that changes the game, if at all. Spoiler, it doesn't, unfortunately. Oh man. Far Cry 5, me and Jez have both put out reviews. I finished it. Jez has, I think, finished it or close to it at least. So we're gonna have an in-depth topic discussion about that game. Spoiler free, of course, because we know the game just came out. And you know, that'll be how it is. We'll talk about it. I'm not gonna spoil it for anybody. And then of course little small things in between, all that good stuff. So make sure you guys, as you get into the room, hit that like button um, to help out because it really does. YouTube's notification system. I don't know if you guys have seen it. They've come out and said, yeah, people that subscribe to your channel, they may not get notifications of your new videos. And it's like, are you serious?
A
Have you
whole
seen that,
company
Jez?
algorithm, man. Yeah, Google's a bullshit company, man. I don't care what anyone says. The whole company works on algorithms, and I'm going to start an anti-Google podcast, but not today. Not today. Google
Yeah.
sucks.
So yeah, so make sure. I mean, I always say it at the end of the videos. Like button always helps. The subscribe if you want to see the content helps. But then it's like if you really want to see it, gotta hit the notification stuff because apparently Google's like, if you're subscribed, maybe you, maybe not. You don't want to see the videos. It's like, come on, man. Anyways, uh, yeah, it's pretty screwed up. YouTube admitted that they don't put it in the sub box. It's like, well, what the reason is for subbing that? I don't get it. Either way, we got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about. Um, but first, we're going to talk about the games we played, and this might be a little short because I think we both played the same game. We're going to give it its own topic soon. But Jez, have you been playing anything else besides Far Cry 5 this past week?
Oh man, yeah. Actually, I've been playing a bit of Sea of Thieves. Uh, you know, just rocking and rolling on that. I've been playing Monster Hunter World, which got a new monster recently, which is pretty awesome. Been playing more Surviving Mars because I'm absolutely addicted to that game. And but yeah, mostly it's been all about Far Cry 5 this week, man. It's amazing. I absolutely love Far Cry 5. Um, I played it all weekend to hit the review embargo, and um, I was expecting it to be bland and boring, because I kind of feel like the series has sort of it was in danger of becoming stale. At Far Cry 4, I thought it was really boring, and the villains weren't that interesting and stuff like that. And then I thought Far Cry Primal was pretty cool, but I kind of missed having rocket launchers and stuff. So I think Far Cry 5 was really good overall. It was it's still got that repetition, the whole like grinding convoys and stuff like that. But you don't have to do that. They got rid of some of the stupid stuff like the tower climbing and replaced it with some, I thought the prepper puzzles were pretty interesting. At least they've been so far, the ones I've done. And like just tons of polish and improvements and tweaks here and there. And I thought the villains in that game were brilliant, man. So that's it. Far Cry 5.
That's it. Just the only thing you've been playing. Okay.
Well, Sea of Thieves as well and stuff like that.
Sea of Thieves. Do you play Sea of Thieves or does Sea of Thieves play you?
Well, we'll talk about that in a bit. I've got my thoughts on Sea of Thieves are evolving over time. But I've got my own Xbox Truth Police coming after me on Sea of Thieves for being overly excited about it.
Yeah, you seen that Reset Era really they are using your tweet about Sea of Thieves being PUBG, like, over and over.
Well, it's selling pretty well, So,
yeah.
And it's doing pretty good engagement numbers for Microsoft. So
yeah, shout out to Fallout 3476v2 for the super chat. Xbox has No Man's Sea, now you have No Man's Buy. Funny. The memes are coming out considering No Man's Sky is now coming to Xbox along with No Man's Sea. You know how it is. People love to make fun of that stuff. But what else is going on? Myself, it's been a Far Cry week. I've put up 38 hours into the game since I got it last week. I'm pretty sure I haven't played anything else. And yeah, I mean, I got 1,000. Do you want to just talk about Far Cry 5 right now? I might as well.
We might as well, man.
Yeah, I might as well. We haven't played anything else besides Far Cry 5. I haven't played Sea of Thieves or any other game. So well, actually, no, I have played something else. I totally forgot about it. I played A Way Out.
Oh, I was going to say you played an indie game because I know that's
an EA game, bro. That's an EA game.
It's an indie game. Apparently, EA's not making a dime on it, according to the developer.
Yeah, I saw that.
So EA is now a charity. I've heard. Apparently,
well, apparently they're EA originals. They don't make any money. Like same thing with the Faye game and this game. But so yeah, A Way Out. I really enjoyed it. I played it with my buddy Sam. It's a co-op game. You have to play it in co-op, either local co-op or online co-op, and there is a split screen. Like you'll see one character and you'll see another character on screen at all times. I thought at first I would not like that because I don't like playing in split screen, but it actually works well in this game. The game's got a great story with a fantastic ending, so don't spoil yourself on that. But it's one of the better co-op experiences I've ever had in any game, period, because it was built with co-op in mind. So if you're looking for a cool co-op game that's 5 hours long that you and your friend can split because you buy the game, only one person needs to buy it. That's a cool thing. Like if I bought the game and Jez didn't, I can invite Jez to play as long as he downloaded the trial and we could both experience the full game. However, the person that doesn't buy it can't unlock any achievements or trophies, which, I know some people care about that and some people don't.
Not me.
But it was a really cool experience from the makers of Brothers, a game that I really liked. And I gave it an 8.5 in my review. My buddy Sam, I think he even liked it better than me. It's got some really cool moments in there. It's kind of like a fusion of Life is Strange or a Telltale game mixed in with like a kind of action movie experience from like the 70s and stuff. So, I mean, it's got some bad dialogue, cringy writing, things like that. But the whole experience was very, very cool. And then hell, let's talk about Far Cry 5 because why not? It's the biggest game that's out recently. You want to go first, Jez, or you want me to hit it?
Sure, man. I mean, I said earlier that I didn't have huge expectations for Far Cry 5, and I didn't follow any of the marketing whatsoever. I didn't follow any of the hype train surrounding it. Not like I followed Sea of Thieves. So I just sort of I went in quite blind to Far Cry 5. Obviously, I'd seen some of the noise about it being cultist. I had this sort of background narrative about it being a commentary on right wing America and stuff like that. And we'll probably talk about the way that might have impacted some review scores in a bit, no doubt. But
Mhm.
it yeah, I didn't have huge expectations for it, and like I said earlier, it just stripped out some of the annoying things about the game, about the series, even like the towers and sort of relegated the busy work down to down to sort of completely optional and sort of focused more on these sort of more interesting side missions and stuff like the stuff with the like I'm not going to spoil any of the quest or missions or anything like that, but you know, very early on one of the quests is to hunt for aliens with a conspiracy theorist. There's an interesting quest with a CIA agent, which is sort of like there's a lot of parody and a lot of good humor in the game, and yeah, there's dark scenes in it and stuff, but it doesn't take itself too seriously, and I just felt like it was just a fun game. You know, it just a really fun game, and I never felt annoyed with it the whole time I played it. You know, even the bugs. It was just one of those games where like the bugs are just you just kind of like, oh well, it's an open world Ubisoft game. There's gonna be bugs. You know, it felt like Ghost Recon Wildlands in that instance where like the NPCs are kind of like robots just wandering around and they get stuck on things and I had one instance where I thought I was going to get this really awesome clip for my review of me shooting a plane with a rocket. And I hit this plane with a rocket, and the plane didn't blow up. It just sort of hit the ground. And then the dude got out of the plane, the pilot, and fell through the floor. So it does have those open world bugs, you know. But I love the villains. Absolutely
Mhm.
love the villains. It just kind of, the whole game sort of plays like an 80s action movie. You know, it's got a lot of cheese. It's really over the top. You can blow things up, set things on fire, and that's what I want from a game, you know, personally. So I loved it, man. I mean, I don't really have any sort of nuanced take on the game. I just thought it was a big, fun popcorn sort of game, you know? I loved it.
Dude, I'm right there with you, man. Like I got it early, and as soon as I started the game, I'm like, I'm hooked. I mean, like, look, I'm predisposed to like Far Cry. I've liked all the Far Cries I've played. Love Far Cry 3. I enjoyed Far Cry 4, despite it being way too derivative of Far Cry 3, in my opinion. So I was going into the game thinking, man, am I really going to like this game? You know, Far Cry 4 was okay, but it was too much like 3. And from like the beginning segment, you know, that like CGI kind of found footage they throw at you, and then the intro when you land in the compound to try to take down the father, and that whole sequence, I was hooked. And even so, like I spent on that Saturday, I literally played it for 14 hours straight. I couldn't put the game down. And you know me, because I've said it many times on the podcast, I'm kind of burnt down on open world games. But for whatever reason, I love this open world. And I just loved going around exploring, running from one place to the next, seeing what the game had to offer. And of course, you guys know I'm big on story and character and things like that. So I felt the villains were amazing. Like every time they had a monologue, which happens quite a bit, where they were speaking to the character, I sat there like transfixed watching the screen, from Jacob stuff to Faith and the Bliss. Oh, and Joseph the father, and John stuff, like, and each section of the game, each one of those areas with the main bosses kind of has a different gameplay element attached to it, and I really enjoyed that. And then of course all the great music. Oh my
The
god,
music
like the
was really good,
music
yeah.
is phenomenal. Like, so I'm thinking to myself, I love this game. I love it. Like I can't stop playing it, right? So hopefully it gets me back into the open world aspect of it, so I can go back and finish games like Horizon Zero Dawn and Assassin's Creed and stuff like that. But I've put like 38 hours into it. I've got the full 1,000 out of 1,000. I've like done pretty much all the missions. The only ones I have left to do are the collectible stuff, which there's no really reason to do it. I've caught like 70 fish. I'm a pro fisherman now. You know, I caught more fish than Jez.
Oh my god! Can you actually track that?
Yeah, it's tracked it in the Xbox stats.
Oh man, I need to up my fishing game, man.
Dude, once you unlock the better fishing rods, it's so easy to catch and I have all the state records for the biggest fish caught in each region, which is definitely more than you, Jez. Definitely, definitely.
Oh, man, are there boss fish?
There are a couple unique fish. Yes, there is one boss to get one of the better rods. You have to catch the admiral, and then there's this other one that's like a big ass white fish that you need to catch for one of the missions. Yeah,
I love fishing mechanics in games. I don't know why. I don't know what it is. I for some reason, like Monster Hunter World has fishing mechanics too. I don't know why. I like them because they're stupid and useless, and it's just fluff. But for some reason, I just like fishing mechanics in games. I don't know why.
I mean, I don't really care for fishing, but I did enjoy this one. So it's like, my review, I gave it a 9.5. I still stand by that. I adore the game, and the ending kind of bumped it up. I originally wasn't going to give it a 9, but the ending and what happens bumped it up a 0.5 for me. The only real complaints I have about the game are kind of small nitpicks. One, your character is voiceless. I can't stand voiceless characters in games, especially when they're the main character. Like, to me, it just kind of breaks the immersion because all this crazy stuff happens. There'll be instances where you're going out trying to save somebody. A car drives by, they get out, and you shoot them. A helicopter crashes into the car. A bear comes out of the woods to attack someone that was trying to get you. Your cougar that you have as a pet then attacks the bear, and then someone else comes out from the side to join the fight. It's like ridiculous. Some of the things that can happen, but your character remains mute the entire game.
Your reaction is the character's reaction.
True, but I'm just saying, like, if you want to be immersed, and I know what I know, like one of the complaints about Far Cry 3 was how much Brody talked, and they dialed it down for 4. And in this one, yes, you can pick male or female, so they probably didn't want to have to record 2 different sets of voices, one for a male, one for a female, and you can pick all the different types of like races that you want. Like African American or any of that stuff. So Bobby just felt it was best to be a voiceless character. But that's like my biggest complaint. The other one are small ones. Like, it's an open world game, so sometimes your characters that are following you will have pathing issues to get to you, which is to be expected in this type of stuff. And sometimes when you're trying to get a quest, because most of the quests are given to you by people that talk to you, if they're in conflict, they won't talk to you.
Yeah, and sometimes they'll just be like, they'll be in the middle of a conversation, and then they'll see an eagle attacking them, and they'll be like, "Oh no, help me!" And they start running away because of this eagle. And it's like, damn it, I was like a millisecond away from getting that quest. But that is annoying. But so it's that's the whole. We've kind of almost like accepted that is what comes with an open world game, is these bugs and stuff. And I don't know if they need like a leap in AI technology to rectify this, but it feels like all open world games suffer from this. Like Fallout and Skyrim are absolutely notorious for this. So I don't know. I just kind of I gloss over that stuff now because I'm so used to it being bad. I mean, like even in The Witcher, which is Witcher 3, which is held up as this example of a godlike open world game, there's still like instances where the horse will end up on top of a roof and stuff like that. Like the game even makes fun of it. So yeah, I don't know, man. I thought it was brilliant. I think like if you're a fan of any of the Far Cry games, it's like a must-buy purchase. It's not for everyone. Like some people just don't like those kind of games, which is fair enough. But man, some reviewers, Rand, were really harsh to the game for some reason.
Yeah, they were. I don't know. I presented this to my friends. A couple of them agree with them. A couple of them don't. I feel that this generation, the reviewers are harsher towards games. They don't review games as high anymore. And for me, they're like, this game is so much better than Far Cry 3, but Far Cry 3, if you look at Metacritic's a 91. This game is better in literally every regard. Better setting, better gameplay mechanics, better characters, better villains, better story. It's much better game, yet it's going to be 10 points lower on Metacritic. And I don't understand it. You know, Polygon was saying, "Oh, well, it's it tries not to offend anyone, so it'll just annoy you." I'm like, do people play video games for video games anymore? Like, I get the tone disparity, that comment that people say. It's like, hey, one mission, you have this like really dark story about sin, and you'll be going through these bunkers, and people will be mutilated, right? Like a very dark, mature like story. And then like the next mission, you could be going to get bull testicles, so people can be happy. And I get like there's a very stark contrast between what the game and the story is trying to tell and some of the crazy stuff you do, but
I call that tonal whiplash when that happens in open world games.
but to me it's like I don't really care about that stuff because they're fun things to do in the game outside of the story, and it's a video game, for Christ's sake. You know what I'm saying? Like, I expect those type of things. I expect that an open world game to kind of have a different content that everyone's gonna. It's just like, but some people can't. Like, I think what they wanted, and I read this in a few reviews. They wanted this to be a attack or a put down on the alt right movement. The Donald Trump supporters, so to speak.
Yeah.
And because it didn't really say that, it wasn't a condemnation of that. The people that wanted it to be were like, this game's got nothing to say and it's horrible, But where were the same people saying, like, with the same criticism? They didn't have the same criticism for Far Cry 3 about the human trafficking trade or anything like that, or Far Cry 4 about the drug trade. They didn't make the same complaints with those two games, but suddenly, they didn't. They're like, oh, well, it didn't say anything, so the game sucks in this matter. So it's like, I don't know, man. Reviews. I don't really pay attention. Like, if it's a game I want to play, I'm gonna play it despite what anybody says about it. I just sometimes I just can't. It's like I'm sitting there and I'm like, I can't see how somebody like could give this game a 6 because of whatever reasons, and I don't know.
It's just not a 6 out of 10 game. It's just completely dishonest to call it a 6 out of 10 game. And for me, even if you find the game's content to be like, gaudy or lacking, it's like reviewers are supposed to review products. In my view, I mean, this is just my view, and it's not gospel truth or anything like that. I'm not claiming it to be, but in my view, the job of a reviewer is to help someone make a purchase decision. It's like the whole point of reviewing something is not to congratulate yourself on how smart you are, how knowledgeable you are about the nuances in something or other. It's about, is this game worth $60? That's how I approach it. That's how we approach it on Windows Central, and that's how we approach all sorts of pro reviews, because we are a tech site at heart, and we review laptops, and it's like, is this laptop worth $2,000? And it's the same thing with games. It's like, is this game worth this amount of money, and stuff like that. And when I just sit there and play it and have fun, I'm not there thinking about, man, these writers on validating my political views. They've made a bloody fun game, and that's all that matters to me. And whatever, I don't look to games to get political affirmation.
Yeah. So I mean, there's Jez's review. He put up his thoughts about the game. You can read it on Windows Central. He gave it a 5 out of 5. You can listen to my review. I gave it a 9.5. I love it. So I mean, try out the game or wait for sale. I mean, I understand games are $60. I think it's totally worth the $60, but maybe
It's
wait.
stunning on the X2.
Oh my god, it looks ridiculous on the X. There's been a good week for X patches or games on the X. You have Resident Evil 7 just got an X patch. This game looks ridiculous. Doom is getting its patch today. So it's like, yeah, this game looks, and I think Digital Foundry said this game's native 4K too, right? I could have sworn I saw you wrote an article about it. Maybe not you personally, but Windows Central.
Yeah, I think like it achieves 4K and then dynamically scales down if things get so mental, So but the one of the I think I can't remember if it was Digital Foundry. I think someone from Digital Foundry posted on Reset Era, and they were like, "Yeah, it does achieve 4K resolution on Xbox One X." So it just looks stunning. Like I was playing it on the X, and it was just like I was just showing my girlfriend because she doesn't really game. I was just like, "Is that a picture? Is that a photograph, or is that a video game?" And
Yeah.
it's just some of the lighting is incredible. But yeah. Good game. Buy it.
Yes. Can't wait for the DLC. If you guys don't know the DLC, there's 3 DLCs coming. One that takes place on Mars, one that takes place in Vietnam, and one that takes place with zombies, and then of course the Far Cry 3 remaster. So I can't wait to play all that stuff. Like I am dying to already get back into Far Cry 5 and just listen to that great music and explore that beautiful countryside and shoot some Peggies, man. You
Damn
know?
piggies.
Those damn Peggies.
I bought some tinted aviator glasses as well. I've decided to become a cosplayer.
I saw on Twitter is pretty interesting there, Jez.
I realized that I've got the same hair and like similar beard to Joseph Seed.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Davidius NC says, "What is Far Cry Arcade?" Good question, and I can answer that because I actually spent a lot of time playing the Far Cry Arcade recently. So Far Cry Arcade is basically their map editor where people can go use the assets from the game and other Ubisoft products like Primal, Far Cry 4, Watch Dogs, Assassin's Creed Black Flag, and you can make levels. And the type of levels you can make are kind of like journey levels from point A to point B, or bounty hunt or deathmatch and stuff. And then also you can play all those levels in solo, you can play it in co-op, or there's PvP matches. Unfortunately, a lot of the maps that are currently made are rough, and I mean rough in a really bad sense. They aren't really worth playing. Ubisoft has made some their own maps, and those are a little decent. But when I was playing the multiplayer, people were recreating stuff like Shipment and Nuketown from Call of Duty.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
I didn't even touch the arcade in my review. Like I was so stressed about doing the campaign that I didn't even try the arcade really.
Well, yeah,
So,
because to most people, Far Cry is about the single player or co-op open world experience. The arcade stuff is nobody plays Far Cry for the PvP multiplayer, you know?
yeah.
And I mean, people were playing. I mean, I did play about 10 games or 15 games of the multiplayer. I mean, it's okay. It's very arcadey. It's not something I would recommend, but after you're done with the campaign and all that stuff, check out the game. And somebody's calling probably to tell me to play more Far Cry Arcade or something. I wonder who it could be.
Oh, it's Xbox Truth Police, man.
Yeah, they're after me.
Down. Oh no.
The Far Cry Truth Police, they're after me.
Far Cry Truth Police.
Yeah. All right, so that's about Far Cry. That's all about it. Me and Jez both love the game. So yeah, check it out if you got the time, if you got the money, and or play it when it eventually goes on sale. Like all these games eventually all go on sale. You know how it is. So next I want to talk about you want to talk about Game Pass and Games with Gold real fast because there's an interesting thing happening with Game Pass this month. Did you see the games coming into it?
Into Game Pass. Yes,
For
I did.
April. Yeah.
One is City Skylines.
Which I think
that's the headline, very much, right?
Well, no, I mean kind of, but not really. That's not even the really reason I bring it up. Let me see if I can bring up the list for it. Here we go.
Syndicate. Syndicate is Games with Gold.
Yeah. So the Xbox Game Pass titles for April, and there's one big story here. Like the lineup itself isn't very good. You have Portal Knights, you have City Skylines, you have Cluster Truck, you have Late Shift, which Late Shift is a pretty cool game. Hunter Call the Wild, Kingdom, New Lands, and Sacred Citadel. No, I mean, unless you're a big fan of City Skylines, a lot of people will look at this and be like, eh. But Robocraft Infinity is launching into Game Pass on the 11th, and it's the first third-party game to launch day and date into Game Pass. So it's pretty significant for the program because, Phil and them have talked about this idea of launching games first into Game Pass. And yeah, Microsoft kind of put their money where their mouth is and put Sea of Thieves and all their first party games in there first, and now here's the first third party game. Granted, it's a smaller indie title, but it is the first one. So, Jez, do you think we'll see more of these types of things as time goes on? More indie games and maybe eventually third party games from something like Ubisoft or maybe a bigger publisher launch into Game Pass day one?
I do. I think so. Yeah, and there are a number of games that I can think of that would benefit from having, guaranteed monthly income. If they are getting royalties for being on Game Pass, you have to presume that they are. I think there are a bunch of games that will benefit from that. For example, Astroneer. I think I don't know if you've ever played Astroneer, but Astroneer is an idea Xbox game. It's kind of like superficially similar to No Man's Sky, except it's got a more of a focus on base building. You build a base on a planet, you explore, you upgrade, you can build like a little rover, then build a big rover, and then an even bigger rover. And they've just revamped the whole research system, and it's a really cool little game. And they've got a really nice roadmap, public roadmap you can browse on Trello, which is it's like a project management website. And they've put their roadmap completely out for all to see, and their future plans are like farming mechanics and other sort of simulation elements that would naturally go with a space simulator game like No Man's Sky, I guess. But the problem with Astroneer is that the updates are pretty slow. So maybe if they had like royalty payments on the regular basis from Game Pass rather than relying on people actually buying the game outright, maybe they could hire more people and stuff like that. And maybe that would be a good business model for some indie studios who might be struggling with cash flow. So I don't know. I mean, we don't know how the monetization works for a developer on Game Pass. We don't know if they get a flat fee or they just get royalties when the game gets played or whatever stuff like that. But it could be a really good way to get people to try a new game, like Robocraft Infinity. Or did I get the name right?
Yeah, Robocraft Infinity. Yep.
Robocraft Infinity. So I saw this game on it was on the Xbox Insider program. Like you could sign up for the alpha through the Xbox Insider app for this game, Robocraft Infinity. And I don't really know much about it, but the fact is we're talking about it right now because it's in Game Pass. Like if this was just like another one of the idea Xbox releases, I'd probably have glossed over it completely. But if it's part of Game Pass and I see like if I'm a subscriber to Game Pass and I say like this month, here are your new games, I'm definitely going to try it out. Whereas before, I probably wouldn't have done if the game was an indie dev that had no marketing. So it is interesting, but at the same time, I'm curious how far that $10 a month can stretch realistically. Like I suppose like Microsoft can theoretically kick games out that aren't performing very well. Like they kicked out a bunch of 360 games, I guess, for April, right?
Yeah, I would imagine more because the licenses. Maybe they lost the licenses. I don't know.
Yeah, but at the same time, if there's less games, I mean, they should curate Game Pass too, because the more options there are, theoretically, the less likely people are to play the games that they're going to subscribe for potentially. So like if they're like the kind of gamer, I think Microsoft actually has a metric for this. They call these kind of gamers explorers. I think we talked about it on a podcast like 6 months ago or something. But I mean, Microsoft research, they identify different types of gamer. I leaked this last year from Microsoft Research, and they gave a presentation to developers at GDC, and they were like, they were basically like, this is how we break down the different types of gamer. And one of those different types of gamer is an explorer. People who will, I think it was called explorer anyway. It was like gamers who will basically play anything, and try out anything. They don't really pay attention to the marketing. They just sort of explore the library. And Game Pass is, I think, and it was a pretty big chunk of this pie chart that these gamers are explorers. It was a pretty big chunk of that pie chart. So I almost feel like Game Pass is aimed at monetizing that kind of person, and especially like younger gamers as well, who maybe are less engaged with the whole, marketing cycle and stuff like that. Maybe they'll be explorers too. And a parent is probably more inclined to pay a monthly subscription than they are pay for a $60 game every month or every couple of weeks and stuff like that. So you know, it's an interesting dynamic, you know. And here's another thing about Game Pass, Rand. I heard that Game Pass helped retail sales of Sea of Thieves.
Really?
Yeah,
That's interesting.
because the fact that it was in Game Pass helped the game's virality, and because more people were playing it, just because they were playing it on Game Pass, it advertised the game to people who may not have heard of Game Pass, and they just went out and bought it outright.
Hmm.
So there's that angle too, you know. So if Robocraft Infinity gets streamers on board because people are playing it just because of Game Pass, then there's every likelihood that it'll help advertise the game as well, and people will go and pick it up. So there are no downsides to Game Pass that I can see so far. And I would not be surprised if Sony ends up copying it if it becomes more successful. So that's what I think. What do you think?
I mean, clearly Game Pass is important to Microsoft. They went and they put all their own games in there day one. So, with them talking about how this is how, they could launch third party games, can launch in there and things of that nature. Uh, it is like a step in the right direction. I mean, will Robocraft Infinity see a lot of, traction coming to Game Pass that they wouldn't if if it just came out? Possibly. We won't know for sure until we see how many people are playing it. But I think for a lot of people, the litmus test is going to be like something from Ubisoft, something from Activision. Because honestly, like even though I do love me indie games and so do you and so do a lot of other people, a lot of people still consider indie games trash. You know, and so they look at Robocraft Infinity and they're like, it's trash. Like they just want their AAA experiences and things of that nature.
Yeah, for sure.
So it'll be interesting to see where it goes. But I brought it up because it is the first. It's the very first one outside of their own game. So it'll be interesting to see the next one and if they get bigger and bigger. But Games with Gold this month is actually pretty good. The Witness, which is a great puzzle game, and Assassin's Creed Syndicate, Cars
Very
2, and Dead
expensive.
Space 2. So
The
that's
Witness got criticized for being $40, I think, at
it
launch.
is. It was $40.
Yeah,
Yep.
and it was a puzzle game, which is, I might have picked up The Witness, but not at not at $40. So it's really awesome to see that game hitting Games of Gold, and also Assassin's Creed Syndicate is one of the best in the series, in my opinion. Being a British guy,
Mhm.
So there's that too. But yeah, it's been pretty good this month. I think Games of Gold is kind of like sometimes it's really really bad, and then other times it's really really awesome. And it's really funny. People try and work out a pattern to it, sometimes, and try and figure out if it's going to be a good game or a bad game. But it just seems to be completely random what goes in there sometimes.
I mean, yeah, it seems like it is. Like last month for PlayStation was really really good with Bloodborne and Ratchet and Clank, but this month is just like Mad Max and Trackmania Turbo, and it's like, well, like
Mad Max is a good game.
it is, but it's like, man, one month really good, this month not so much. It's like you kind of wonder, like the deals and stuff and how all that stuff goes down. But let's move on. We do have a lot of kind of Xbox centric stuff here. We're going to talk about Sea of Thieves and No Man's Sky and Terry Myerson. And I kind of want to talk about Terry Myerson first, Jez.
Okay.
So why don't you explain to those who don't know who Terry Myerson is? What exactly did he do at Microsoft and why? Well, this would have been way bigger news before Phil got promoted, but go ahead and explain it, Jez, for the peeps out there.
For the peeps. Okay, well, for those who don't know, Terry Myerson used to be Phil Spencer's boss. Terry Myerson led a group called the Windows and Devices team, and under that team, Windows and Devices, Xbox used to live and Surface used to live. However, today, Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft, just announced a reorganization of the entirety of Microsoft. So now the Surface team has the Surface team. The leader has been promoted to chief product officer. So the Surface team the whole Surface division has been elevated, and also, as we know, the Xbox division has also been elevated to its own team, run by Phil Spencer. And Terry Myerson, who used to lead everything Windows related, basically everything related to the Microsoft's consumer operation, was led by Terry Myerson. And a lot of people have blamed Terry Myerson for Xbox being underfunded. Now, I don't know if any of this is true. I haven't seen Microsoft's balance sheet, but people have blamed Terry Myerson for Xbox being underfunded, for greenlighting the way Don Matrick held Xbox in 2013, 2012. And also, they've blamed Terry Myerson for Microsoft completely failing at mobile, which is now hurting Microsoft in other areas, including gaming, frankly. So there is an app called Blind, right? And if you've got a company email account like at Microsoft.com, you can anonymously sign up to Blind and bitch about the company you work for anonymously. And on the Microsoft Blind, basically, all these Microsoft employees were bitching about Terry Myerson all day. They didn't like him for whatever reason. I don't know the details. I don't know Terry Myerson. I don't know what he's like. But internally, a lot of people blamed him for the way Windows has gone, for the way Xbox has been handled, and all that sort of stuff. Maybe he's been scapegoated. I don't know. But the fact that Xbox now has its own autonomy and Surface has its own autonomy, and the executive vice president of Office is now running Windows as a new team. Um, it's only a good thing in my mind, because Office has been a very successful product, and Windows needs to evolve to a changing technological landscape. And as far as we're concerned, Rand, the gamers, Terry Myerson was, I've been told, a reason for things at Xbox being rough. Like, for example, the whole Xbox experience on Windows, like the Microsoft Store and UWP for games and stuff like that. It was Myerson's team that was making some of that stuff bad, and like, I used to talk to people who worked on the Microsoft Store, and they were constantly frustrated by the fact that they couldn't make the Microsoft Store better because of systemic issues within the Windows team. So hopefully this change will mean that Xbox can do its own thing a bit more, and the Surface team can do its own thing a bit more without worrying about Windows. And hopefully the Windows team can start adapting to change in a way that will help them compete with iOS, Android, and Chrome OS, which is starting to become dominant again. Basically, the only thing keeping Windows afloat right now is gaming, and people are buying gaming PCs more than any other type of PC right now. And Terry Myerson was not the person to lead that section of the Windows ecosystem, So in my mind, it's only a positive thing.
Yeah, I mean, he should have been gone a long time ago with how he mishandled the whole mobile phone stuff.
The phone stuff is it's a travesty.
I mean, the fact that Microsoft doesn't have a phone like on the scale of Google's Android or iOS, like he should have been gone a long time ago, because that is a huge chunk of the market they literally they have no traction in.
Well, this is the real kicker, Ran. Windows itself was barely mentioned in Satya Nadella's email and to employees, and it kind of I mean, Daniel Rubino on Windows Central has a really great editorial about this, but it exemplifies the fact that Windows is no longer really important to Microsoft. That whole business has plateaued. Nobody's buying PCs anymore except for core gamers, and Microsoft can't make any money on them because they're building their own PCs, which Microsoft doesn't get royalties on. They are buying games on Steam, which Microsoft doesn't get royalties on, really. And Microsoft can't monetize PC gamers. So they don't care about Windows anymore as much, anywhere near as much as they used to.
Yep.
And it's, if I was a PC gamer, I would stop attacking Microsoft because Microsoft doesn't need Windows anymore. And, like, the Windows Store is an attempt to get some money back to monetize their own ecosystem. But the fact of the matter is, nobody wants a Windows Store. PC gamers constantly attack the Windows Store. Microsoft could shut down Windows tomorrow, and it probably wouldn't hit their bottom line. That's the scary thing. For that's what I'd be scared of if I was a PC gamer.
It's kind of funny how Windows was their whole platform at one point.
Yeah, and now it's Azure.
Yeah, and now it's literally, even like, if you had to like kind of like put like what's important to Microsoft and list them in order, Windows used to be number one. Now Windows is literally probably underneath Xbox.
It is underneath Xbox.
So
it's funny. It's sad at the same time.
It's sad because they lacked foresight on this. Like the fact that they screwed up on phones and they screwed up on Windows, and he ran the divisions for it. It's like he should have been gone a long, long time ago. I mean, Don Matrick and his boys got booted out for almost destroying Xbox, and that was right away. This guy's been sitting there, torpedoing all these divisions, and finally, he leaves. Like you say, well, was he fired? Probably, but nobody really gets fired. They just get to like retire or move on. But I mean, like you, I've heard similar things. I heard that he didn't believe in Xbox. He hated being in charge of it. And after all the stuff that happened with 2013 and all that stuff, they really had to rein in the budget on Xbox.
Yeah.
And that led to a situation where we have now, like, where there's no games. The games that were in production, but they didn't really want to fund anything that wasn't Halo, Gears, and Forza. So, they cut down the budget. Scalebound gone, Fable Legends closed. Canceled. Lionhead shut down. I mean, all these things. Like you could put on Phil, and yeah, it is on Phil. He is the person who had to ultimately make the decision. But Phil also had to answer to his boss Terry, who was, it's like, hey, you have this amount of money, and this is it. So Phil got promoted, which was awesome. Because he doesn't have to deal with Terry anymore. He deals directly with Satya. But now that Terry's completely gone, it's like, man, too bad this didn't happen 5 years ago. Maybe Microsoft would have a foothold in Windows phones. Maybe Windows Store and the Windows itself would be in better shape. Maybe Xbox would be in better shape. Who knows? But
it was to put in Xbox and all that stuff under Windows as a single Windows and Devices group, and then having Terry lead it. That was a disaster in my mind. It's led to all sort of problems. Like, look at Cortana, man. They were so far ahead with Cortana a couple of years ago. So far ahead. And now they're behind everyone. They're behind Siri, Google Now, Alexa. Alexa is completely dominated. And it's just like, this is all Terry's fault. This is his fault. He should have been, like, I agree with you. He should have been gone a long time ago. They squandered all this stuff. But hopefully now, with this reorganization, it's just going to lead to bigger and better things, especially with like Panos Panay leading as a chief product officer. That guy is just dripping with passion. And that's something that Terry Myerson just never had. I saw Terry give a presentation at IFA in Berlin, and it was just like he didn't even want to be there, man. It's like he didn't even care. He's a terrible presenting.
Who runs the entertainment and devices division now? Is it Panos Panay?
Panos Panay is basically, it's the same as Phil. It's effectively the same role. It's just his whole division's been elevated to its own thing. Kind of like the kind of like gaming when Microsoft has been elevated to its own thing rather than part of Windows. And that's really a recognition of how unimportant Windows has become.
Yeah, Windows... I was gonna say, like, there's no need for Windows, and the phone market's dead, so you don't need Terry Myerson to do anything because the two divisions he were running are useless.
Exactly. I mean, someone in the chat was saying Windows is not going to die, and of course, Windows isn't going to die. It's on like a billion. It's on a billion devices. Businesses rely on it, and stuff like that. And Windows Server is really powerful, and Windows itself is really powerful. But the market's kind of plateaued. Like, as I say, Daniel Rubino, Windows Central, is a much smarter guy than me when it comes to Windows, and he's written an editorial about what this means. And if you want to know more about this stuff, because I know most of you guys are gamers and might not necessarily be interested. But if you are, go and check it out on Windows Central. And also, it does have implications for gaming because it potentially means that Phil, this has already happened for Xbox. Like Xbox is it's more free now. So like what we're going to see in the next couple of years with Xbox without Terry Myerson and frankly Windows without Terry Myerson is a liberation of whatever was holding it back. And you have to assume that it fell at Terry Myerson and a lack of action and stuff like that. The Cortana thing, it just kills me, man. It's like Microsoft always say, like, we want to be an AI company, blah, blah, blah. And Cortana is just a joke. And Bing is a joke too. Because, like, search is AI. And Bing is just not as good as Google. Something had to change.
Something had to change.
And this, hopefully, was the thing that will make things better. Woo!
Woo!
That's why I was in a good mood today. I've got optimism now, man. So I've got optimism.
The other day you didn't really have optimism. People were like, "Oh, Jez is depressed again. He's upset about stuff." And now you're happy. So
I was stressed for work reasons last week, as you know. But this week's been really great so far, man. It's been really.
I know. Great. I mean, it's been a good week. Far Cry is awesome. X patches for a whole bunch of games. New games announced for. I mean,
got a green screen.
Got a green screen, huh?
A green screen, man. I'm going legit streamer now.
Damn.
Got a green screen.
I feel like I should get a green screen, and then we could actually be on video on the podcast. That'd be cool.
We could be in the corners and have like video game footage of what we're talking about on the screen.
You see, people watch podcasts for opinions. They don't watch podcasts for gameplay. You can find gameplay for anything, like literally anywhere on the internet. Well, people listen to podcasts because they want to.
Why don't you? God.
I'm just saying, like I've seen that argument is like we have gameplay. It's like who cares? Like people listen to podcasts to hear your opinions about games and stuff. People don't watch podcasts so they can see gameplay of games they can easily find anywhere else on YouTube.
Maybe if we were attractive.
Yeah, well, we're not attractive. Well, I'm not attractive. Attractive. Nobody loves Rand. I'm over here being all lonely.
The Xbox Truth Police love you.
Yeah, apparently they do. Apparently they do. Well, Callie Rex says he wants gameplay for this podcast.
You got to give the people what they want, man. We've got to see Jazz rocking the tiara on top of the Eiffel Tower.
I want to see Jazz rocking, the beard with the Joseph Seed glasses. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I'm never gonna take them off. I'm gonna wear them at E3. I'm gonna get them glued on my head.
That's right. So let us talk about No Man's Sky.
Yes, No Man's Sky.
So what a surprise today. So if you guys didn't hear,
it came out of nowhere, didn't it?
It did. There was no rumors or anything about this game hitting other platforms. I mean, it's been 2 years basically. The game came out August of 2016.
Yeah. It's funny the way Hello Games does this. They like go completely silent, and then one day they'll just be like, "Oh, here's a big update," or "Oh, Xbox version now." Like no build up, no hype. I think they've kind of decided, you know what, we suck at marketing. Let's not try and do it anymore. So, but yeah, No Man's Sky for Xbox did not see. I knew it was going to happen eventually. They've always hinted at that, Rand.
Really? Because I never thought so. Because it'd be one thing. It'd be one thing if it was a year later. But the year passed, and it's like, okay, it's probably not going to happen. I mean, look at Hellblade. Hellblade wasn't even a year. Most games are 6 months. Crash Bandicoot was like a year. And then No Man's Sky, the year passed, and it's like, okay, this game's probably never coming. And Q this morning, what did the article go up on Xbox Wire at? It was like 3 a.m. like Pacific time, so like 5 a.m. Eastern. It was like No Man's Sky coming soon to Xbox One, and it was written by Sean Murray. And it's like, what? So it's coming with its later major feature content called Next. And it will be enhanced for the Xbox One X and support HDR, 4K, and more. And like, it's so weird because at the time, like this game was heavily promoted by Sony. It was like one of the best-selling PlayStation 4 games ever. And then it kind of, well, what's the word I'm looking for here? They lied or maybe misled people about certain features that were in the game, like multiplayer and things like that. It was definitely a game that was built up on hype, and once people saw the final product, they were completely disappointed. A lot of gamers, and this is very sad, and like they attacked the devs, like gave them death threats and stuff, which is disgusting.
It is.
And No Man's Sky, or not No Man's Sky, but Hello Games and Sean Murray had to go into hiding. They didn't talk for months, and all the while, gamers were just a vile bunch of people who were doing it. Were just just giving them crap.
I poked fun at that game. I mean,
poking fun is one thing, but like,
at the end of the day, yeah, and death threats is never okay. It's a shit thing to do. Sorry, swearing, but it's a terrible thing to do, and it just shouldn't happen. But this is the internet at the end of the day, and there are scumbags all over the place, sadly. And the thing is, they did tell a lot of lies in their interviews and stuff. It's not even like it was spin. It wasn't even like it was lying by omission. It was straight up, yes, the game will have this, the game will have this, blah 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 blah, and it just didn't. And even like the videos that purported to be gameplay, they were like concept videos, pre-rendered and stuff like that. And there were tons of stuff wrong with their messaging leading up to that game. However, like you said, it's 2 years ago, long time ago, and in that time, I haven't really kept up with it. But when that game came back on the scene, with this announcement, lots of people were saying to me like, "Oh, that it's had loads of updates. It's actually pretty good now," and people are playing it on PC apparently.
Well, yeah,
and,
it's just I want to give a shout out to whatever for the super chat. Thanks for always saying it like it is, and we always will. I always give my opinion. I never like sugarcoat stuff. I always tell it exactly how I feel it is. You won't find any damage control. I know nobody wants to hear any of that, right? But yeah, honestly, Jez, this shocked me because I just assumed this game was just exclusive to PlayStation for the console. It's been 2 years.
I wasn't shocked at all because they did hint that it would come to PlayStation eventually, and they are a small team.
Well, it was on PlayStation. Wink, wink.
I mean, they did hint it would come to Xbox eventually, and they're a small team, and they have had this sort of, I don't know, this incentive, this very aggressive incentive to pour content into the game, and I suppose what they wanted to do was make this a bit of a relaunch, and they wanted to wait until No Man's Sky was in a proper state before they hit another console, because if they just launched it on Xbox One with little fanfare like a year after launch or 6 months after launch, people just been like, oh, that's the game with nothing in it. But now they've announced it as part of a big expansion and said it's going to have all this stuff in it and farming mechanics and more simulation. People can be a bit more optimistic about it. So it's going to be funny to see what Sea of Thieves is going to be like in 2 years.
Well, yeah, and I got to give another shout out.
That need a relaunch. Oh, sorry.
Well, yeah, I got to give another shout out to Michael Chicarillo for the super chat. Great show as always. Thank you for the support. It really means a lot. Whether it's super chat support or hitting the like button, just being here watching, anything helps. But yeah, so like it's kind of funny that Sea of Thieves comes out, right? And people were saying, No Man's Sea, calling it that to kind of make fun of the game or whatever. And
that now.
Yeah, and like here's the game a week later. Shout out to Kid Smooth and the Planet Xbox. He donated $5 and says, "What does Terry Myerson outing mean for Xbox?" You just missed that segment, kid. Like rewind like 10 minutes, and you can hear Jez go on a Jez rant. Basically, it means big things for just Microsoft in general because he was in charge of Windows and the phone. So yeah. And shout out to I am Valerian for the super chat as well. This one is for Aunt Rand's Indie Spotlight. Love the indie reviews. Well, thank you. I love doing them, and we will be getting back to those soon when there's some good indie games spotlighted. There hasn't been really any out this past couple weeks, so thank you guys for the support. We would normally go and talk about the Terra Myers stuff, but we literally just did. So I don't think people want to hear us talk about us again.
There are also people saying that we need you to put timestamps in the podcast.
Yeah.
I think for the next one, I will start making timestamps and then put them in the description of the audio version, and then I'll give them to Rand to paste into the YouTube version. But I haven't been doing that this time, and
sounds good.
I can't be bothered to go back and do it.
I always hate like re-listening. I always hate like re-listening to videos and like my own stuff just because like I hate my voice. You know, like one of those things that's like
you hate your voice?
No, it's not that I hate my voice. It's just that sometimes like my buddies when we're playing games, like whether it be Love Boat, Gopher, or Magic, they'll start playing one of my videos, and I'm just like, turn it off, turn it off. I don't want to hear myself talk about that. You know, like oh jeez.
Oh man.
But No Man's Sky, okay, so are you, like, look, it's great that it's coming, right? Apparently it's a better game. I'm shocked that it is coming, because I didn't think it ever would. Are you excited to play it? Whenever it comes out, are you actually going to play No Man's Sky? For me, no. I'm definitely not going to play it, because I wasn't interested in when it was on the PS4. It's a survival game. I don't care about that stuff, so I'm not going to play it unless I do it for a review. But what about your thoughts?
I think you are going to play it because it's going to be a hot topic.
I guess maybe it is.
And you are going to play it. So don't say you're not going to play it, Rand, because you'll have to go back on your word. I am definitely going to play it, and I'll tell you why. I love space games. I love games that have simulation mechanics, farming and stuff like that, which No Man's Sky has now added. And I'm just curious, I'm curious what this game that was supposedly terrible has achieved in 2 years of extra development time. I'm just curious, Like I railed on the game just like everyone else. I was, annoyed at the lies and stuff like that. And I tell you why I was so annoyed at the lies. It's because it devalues gaming when a big prominent company lies like that, because it's kind of like, oh, does that, and people say don't pre-order games and stuff like that. But for me, getting excited about a game in the run-up to its launch is part of being a gamer. I like to look forward to games. I don't want to have this suspicion that all games are going to suck, because it's just, I like to have that childlike, for me at least, that whole sort of childlike, I'm excited about this. That's part of gaming for me. So to betray that really annoyed me. But I'm curious as to how the game has built up in 2 years. And yeah, I'm an Elite Dangerous fan too, and I'm curious to see like how the games compare and stuff like that, as being superficially similar in the whole space simulation genre, and also Astroneer as well. So yeah, I'm curious, man. I just want to play it.
And couple shout outs once again for the Ravenflow. Thanks for the updates. The Meyerson info was worth it. That's all Jez. He knows all that stuff. So thank you, Ravenflow. And Sam I Am with the super chat as well. Thank you guys for the support. It means a lot to us.
You've got like a proper dono train going on right now.
I guess, you see, I don't know. I'm not really big into survival games, right? And that's kind of what that game always kind of was. Like, of course, I was really interested in the idea of No Man's Sky, of like going out, exploring the universe, getting to the center and things like that. But then I watched it and you had to like take down trees and craft and stuff. It's kind of why I'm not really big into Astroneer either. So
see, we're like really different on that point, because I really like survival games. Like The Long Dark is one of my top 5 of this gen personally. So like, if it's anything like that, I don't really know that much about No Man's Sky, because I didn't have a gaming PC at the time, and I didn't have an PlayStation 4 at the time. So I still don't. So I couldn't really examine it that much. I just sort of watched the whole the whole shitstorm spiral out when it was happening. But I'm curious, man.
I mean, yeah, I think a lot of people will check it out. I'm curious to see if it's going to get any traction because normally late ports of games to one system to the other never do well. You know,
You say
especially
that, but City Skylines did really, really well. My guide for City Skylines on Xbox One is one of my highest hits articles ever.
I'm more talking about like a PlayStation game coming to Xbox or an Xbox game coming to PlayStation, not a PC game
Not a
finally
PC game.
coming to console.
Yeah, okay. I suppose there's less crossover there.
Yeah,
A lot of people. I think I can't remember where I read this, but I think it's like 50% of Xbox owners have a PlayStation or something like that.
really, that would
Where,
be quite a bit.
where did I read that?
I mean, assuming there's 40 million Xboxes or close to it, that means 20 million of them have PlayStations out of the 75 million or so that have PlayStations. That's quite a.
Don't quote me on that. But that is one of those little facts that's rolling around in my head that I can't remember where I got the information from. So don't quote me on that. But let's just assume there's a lot of crossover between consoles, not necessarily as much between PC and consoles, I guess. But yeah, I don't know, man. Do you think it will get traction? Do you think No Man's Sky will get traction on Xbox after all this time?
No, I don't think so.
You know,
I mean, I'm not saying people won't try it out, but it's people. That thing is like the hype for that game was unlike any hype I've ever seen for a game, and people were so disappointed with it. And I can't imagine like anybody really wanting to replay it. I mean, like I said, it'll have been out for 2 years. At least something like Hellblade is like 8 months, less than a year, right? It's still also coming off of its like victories at award shows and stuff like that. It's still fresh in people's minds because of that. No Man's Sky has been out of people's collective consciousnesses for a year now. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it finally comes to Xbox. It's like, okay, what's the big deal? Like, apparently it wasn't very good on PlayStation. Why am I? I don't know.
That's what I was saying about the whole relaunch thing. It even has the No Man's Sky Next. It's almost like they've rebranded it, and like I said earlier, if they were releasing this 6 months later and it was basically the same game, or even a year later and it only had a few updates, then maybe not. But because it's almost like a relaunch of the game, I think it's going to get more traction and like TRZA Rector. Don't know if I pronounced your name right there, but he says in chat that the game is also 4K enhanced. So, and there aren't that many 4K enhanced games on Xbox One X comparatively to not enhanced games. So I think that will potentially also drive a bit of interest. I'm curious, man. I think lots of gamers are curious about that game, especially what the update will bring. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it'll get no traction whatsoever. But what if it does, man? What if it delivers on all of its promises 2 years later? What if it becomes the #1 game on Twitch again?
I mean, I could see it. I could see people go if it's really that much of a big content update. I could see people streaming and stuff. But this is also kind of dovetail into the Sea of Thieves discussion about this idea of like, who cares? Are people making excuses for games that come out and saying it's okay because it's games as a service and the content will be there a year from now? Because I've seen this defense for Sea of Thieves. So we're going to talk about Sea of Thieves right now and the record-breaking stuff that Microsoft talked about yesterday. So, Jez, you kind of hinted that Microsoft was going to put out a PR piece in your tweets this week because you had heard that it was doing really well for Xbox and that people were excited, right? So they put out, Craig Duncan put out a statement yesterday on Xbox Wire. And he said that Sea of Thieves has made it to the fastest selling new first-party new IP of this gen. So people were wondering, what did that mean? It means that it sold more, probably the first week sales compared to games like Quantum Break, Rise, Sunset Overdrive, Ori and the Blind Forest, and Recore, games like that. Which honestly is not that high of a bar. if I'm being real here, if I'm being frank, you know what I'm saying? It's not that high of a bar, but it is. Here's the thing. I didn't think it would actually get that because I assumed wrongly that more people would go for the Game Pass option. That because there was a $10 option to get the game, I just thought the vast majority of people would get that version and not buy the $60
Yeah.
version.
Well, that's like what I was saying earlier, that the wider mass market don't know Game Pass exists. But they do know Twitch exists, and they've been watching the game on Twitch, thinking it looks cool, and not knowing they can get it cheaper on Game Pass. I think a lot of the time that might be happening. So I think being on Game Pass helped its sales in a viral way.
I mean,
But
it very well could have. I've seen industry people that I follow say that Twitch and the views that these games gets are an indicative measure of a game's success. Like there is some sort of direct correlation between how popular a game is on Twitch and how many copies of the games you'll sell. They said that like this is backed up by data now.
yes,
So I
like
don't know. If,
I almost took a bet with someone that Sea of Thieves wouldn't be in the top 10 a week later, and
why don't
it's
you say
still.
that person's name? Well, I know who it is. Why don't you say him? Say that person's name.
I don't know.
Who?
I don't know if he wanted to be advertised, but it was Tim Dog.
Of course it was Tim Dog. Of course it was Tim Dog who said he's watching. Hey Tim, are you playing Sea of Thieves tonight with Jeremy? Who here's the thing, the Downer. Remember the Downer himself, who's probably listening to this. He's been in my DMs all week ever since Sea of Thieves comes out. Every single day I get DMs from him, right? Saying how much the game is, how horrible the game is, how there's nothing to do. And I'm like, okay, well, if that's the case, why are you still playing it? He's like, I'm just waiting for Far Cry, right? I'm like, okay. So if I see you playing Sea of Thieves when Far Cry's out, then you're lying. And sure enough, Far Cry's out, and what is he playing? Sea of Thieves. And this is somebody who hated on Sea of Thieves since it was originally announced and he played it. And now he can't stop playing it. He calls it Sea of Crack. Calling you out, Jeremy. Calling you out.
There is a weird magic in Sea of Thieves. But the thing is, I think you need to be a particular type of gamer to access that magic. I am not the kind of person who can bring a friend into a game at any time. My schedule is crazy, and I'm often awake when my friends are asleep because of time zones. Like Rand, we barely. I don't think we've ever played a game.
We played
together,
Battlefield 1 together.
like once.
Yeah.
And that's because the only time we're both awake or both available is like this time of day when either I'm already falling asleep because it's 11 p.m. here or we're doing the podcast. So like in the evenings, I'm usually working, and during the day, I'm usually asleep. So like, or spending time with my girlfriend and stuff. So actually getting 4 players online, 4 friends online to get the most out of Sea of Thieves is almost impossible for me. And the game is so bad solo. It really is. It's like it. But the thing is, there are people who really enjoy playing it solo. Like there are people who enjoy trading in Elite Dangerous in a solo ship, and they'll fly across the whole galaxy, just taking in the sights that the game offers. Therapeutically, just trading materials across the galaxy. And I think for some gamers, that is fun, and there's nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with that. But I think what makes a lot of people mad about Sea of Thieves, even the people like the Downer who seem to hate it but can't stop playing it, is that it feels like there is potential being squandered here. It's like the game is in development for years, shouldn't it? And its entire system, the whole system of the game revolves around cosmetics. Shouldn't there at least be more cosmetics? Shouldn't there be more kind of quest types and stuff? And and for people like me I got really sucked into the hype and actually feel bad about it, because I'm the kind of guy who's supposed to tell people whether or not they should be excited for a game, and basically I said to people, yes, you should be excited for Sea of Thieves, but for some reason I always assumed there'd be more to it, and like every time I saw a new build of the game, I was kind of like, oh yeah, now it's starting to take shape and stuff. And I just had this weird assumption for some reason that the final build would have more in it. and it just kind of didn't. And I think that that's disappointing for me, and that's why I've been disappointed about the game. But at the same time, I understand why people are enjoying it, Rand, because it has a kind of weird magic, you know.
No,
And
I mean I get it. You know, I understand. Some people really enjoy the game, but I just had to call out Jeremy because it's like, dude, you've been in my DMs since the game launched, before the game launched, like during alphas and betas, telling me how much the game, how horrible it was, how Microsoft should be ashamed, how it's an early access game, and it's
why
just
does
like
he do that?
I don't know. You know, it's part of his moniker, the Downer, and then he can't stop playing it, and it's like okay, well, obviously something's going on here. It's not as horrible as you say, because if it was, you wouldn't be playing it anymore. Uh, but there was more to the PR piece, right? So it wasn't not only just the best-selling new Xbox IP this gen, which, like I mentioned, great. They did it despite Game Pass, but it's a low bar when you compare it to the other games that actually launched. Not, I don't want to take anything away from Sea of Thieves, but I mean, Recore, Sunset, like these games didn't get sequels, and they aren't exactly like million sellers. You know what I mean? Like, didn't sell very well, but um, Uh, what else? Oh, so they announced that they had 2 million players in 1 week. 1 million players on day one, and 2 million players in the first week. Which that is, in my opinion, that is way more than I thought.
That's PUBG numbers, right?
I mean,
PUBG Xbox numbers.
oh well, I think that's faster than PUBG Xbox numbers.
See, my tweet was accurate.
Yeah, but people, I mean, maybe, but I'm just saying, like,
no, it wasn't. It wasn't.
2 million in a week is a lot, and it explains the server issues they were having. You know, I talked to people at Xbox who this game performed well above their expectations. Of course, you get people saying, well, the majority of those, 1.9 million of those are people on a free 14-day trial, and that they're giving the game away for free and they're going to cancel. But the thing is, I think Sea of Thieves, look, my opinion's my opinion about it. You can find it in my review, right? But I think Sea of Thieves accomplished what it set out to do, which is bring people to Game Pass, get people to know that Game Pass exists, right? And sure enough, a lot of people very well could have been on the free 14-day trial and canceled it. But the thing about that is, you're only allowed one free 14-day trial, and State of Decay 2 comes out in March or in May. And then Crackdown will come out in July or August. And then Forza Horizon 4 will be out in September. And maybe a Halo spinoff, maybe a Gears spinoff, Halo 6, maybe a game every single month. So it's great that, yeah, okay.
You like that Gears spinoff rumor?
What?
You like that Gears spinoff rumor?
Well, I also know the Gears spinoff rumor is true, though, so.
Oh, you heard it.
Yeah. the Halo spinoff rumor, I have no idea, but I do know the Gears spinoff rumor is 100% true.
I hope you're right, man.
Yeah. But yeah, so I'm saying, like, okay, so you don't use. That's the thing about the way Microsoft is approaching it now. They don't need one single game to be a success like they previously had to. Like, without Game Pass, Sea of Thieves needs to be a success in its own right, right? It would have to either live or die on the basis of whether or not it attracted enough players, got enough microtransactions, all that stuff. And if it didn't reach those milestones, who knows what happens that rare. But because it's part of this new kind of Game Pass Netflix style service, they don't need each and individual title to be a runaway success. What each title needs to do is just bring more people into the service and get people to subscribe. So I think Sea of Thieves
value
Yeah.
to Game Pass. And I tell you, there's a good comparison to make here, right? Because Activision have released pretty detailed stats about how expansions and patches affect World of Warcraft subscriptions. Now, World of Warcraft is the king of a service-driven game. No game even approaches what World of Warcraft achieves. In its past, it has had, 18 million concurrent players in its past. I think it was something like that, but well over 10 million, and concurrent subscribers at one time, subscribing, paying $10 a month or whatever it is, and I put that price up recently, that in line with inflation, and also and they're shipping a massive new expansion this year called Battle for Azeroth, which is like God knows how many expansions it's had now, but it's a lot. And they always say that because between these big expansions, which are the price of a full-priced PC game, which they release every 1 to 2 years, I think it's about 2 years on average, or 1.5 years on average, something like that. It's like between those expansions, they have like 3 or 4 huge content patches, and they always say that when they ship these patches that add like quite a lot of content to the game, subscriptions go back up because people come back to the game. People wait and watch and then resubscribe and come back to the game. I quit World of Warcraft years ago, but I still occasionally read MMO Champion, which is the World of Warcraft news website. I still occasionally read the website to see if there had been any interesting updates worth resubscribing for. And I still buy the expansions because, man, World of Warcraft's like crack. You don't quit World of Warcraft. You just don't. You just don't quit it. It's always there in the background. And like I don't play it at the moment. I haven't played for a couple of months, but man, that's the whole idea of Game Pass, is like to ship in a way that will get people to resubscribe to the service. Like there is no coincidence that State of Decay is coming out a few months after Sea of Thieves. Crackdown 3 will also come out a few months after that. And the idea is to keep people coming back to Game Pass, you know.
Yeah,
And
so while a lot of people could have done the 14-day trial, great. It's there for you to use. You played it for 14 days, don't want it, fine. But like they're hoping that every couple months they have a new game, State of Decay 2, which I've seen some of the IGN stuff, looks really good. Seems to have a ton of content, 4-player co-op, multiplayer focused. You can't use your 14-day trial for that. And the whole point is like they want it's cheap enough where a lot of people will just sub and forget, right? That's how Planet Fitness works. That's how a whole bunch of these subscription things work, right? So Sea of Thieves was a success just by the fact that it brought people to Game Pass and got a lot of people talking about the $10 option. Almost every review is talking about, well, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it for 60, but for $10, play it, right? So it gets more and more people to check out Game Pass. And every time, like we talked about it before, Microsoft's release schedule now is tailored to Game Pass. No longer are they just going to backload the year, because yeah, sure, that maybe worked when you wanted every game to get the most potential sales, but that's no longer the case. Now you want people to be subscribed throughout the entire year, and you need to provide content like once every other month. And that's their going forward. And Sea of Thieves doesn't necessarily have to be a breakout success to keep on going, just like State of Decay doesn't. But this is the new way that Microsoft is doing it. 2 million players in 1 week clearly shows, number one, that the game had a ton of interest in it and that people are using Game Pass, because there's no way Sea of Thieves sold 1 million copies in a week at retail at $60, right? So, I mean, it probably sold a fair bit, but there's no way it did that much. But then the other interesting part of the press release, Jez, was that Sea of Thieves is already the best-selling Microsoft Studios first-party title in Windows 10 already. After a single week, already outsold Gears of War 4, outsold Forza Horizon 3, outsold any of the first-party games on Windows 10. That seems to be a pretty big accomplishment, right? Or maybe the bar is just really low for that as well. I'm not really sure on that one. What do you think?
It's hard to say, man, because that's the problem with these PR statements. They are spun in a way that makes everything sound good and completely ignores any of the potential, gotcha moments, So it's hard to say at the end of the day. It is. But, it's like you said earlier as well, Twitch viewership is a pretty good metric by which to measure the success of a game. And Sea of Thieves was number one on day one. You can't buy that kind of marketing anymore. And that's why, like, game sites are worried, because reviews are less relevant now, because everyone just goes and watches a Twitch stream to decide whether to buy a game or not.
I mean, did you see
Sorry, go on.
Did you see the Far Cry stats? Like, no. Ubisoft was already expecting Far Cry 5 to be the best-selling Far Cry in the series. but the numbers it pulled on Twitch dwarfed the numbers any of the other Ubisoft games at launch pulled. Like
Yeah.
4 times the numbers it pulled for Far Cry 4. Like, and which goes along with the the thought process based on the pre-orders and stuff that it was going to be the best selling Far Cry. And people don't like to hear that. People don't like to hear that Twitch is a barometer for success, right? For whatever reason, they don't like hearing that. But if you follow a lot of industry people, they all talk about it. And they talk about this idea of making games streamer friendly, right? And a lot of, like you mentioned, a lot of the reviewers from the traditional outlets don't like that because they're becoming irrelevant. Because why go read Polygon or why go read IGN when you can just watch your favorite streamer who has more pull than any of those guys? And if the data shows that Twitch is a better barometer for sales success than reviews on websites, then the websites become less relevant. They get less ad push, which they need to keep afloat and all that stuff. So there's kind of a fight going on, But then there's also a section of gamers who don't understand Twitch, don't understand why people would watch other people play video games, right? And they kind of laugh at the notion that, oh, Twitch success means success in other areas. I mean, just look at the 2 biggest games on Twitch. Well, at least the biggest game on Twitch, Fortnite, happens to be the biggest game in the world. PUBG, when it was blowing up on PC, it was blowing up on Twitch. League of Legends, also one of the biggest games in the world. Like, if you're pretty high up on Twitch, it's pretty much a certainty that you're going to be a success. At least that's that's what the data says. But yeah, I mean, the whole Sea of Thieves is the best-selling game after a week on Windows 10. A little bit surprising, but then also like, well, how many copies of Gears of War sell on PC? I don't know. But I mean, other than that, like 500,000 friendships made and Sea of Thieves, which they like to include fluff in these things. I don't think that statement there is fluff. Like the whole, hey, 100,000 hours or 100,000 content creators streamed it for this amount of stuff, right? Like that stuff is fluff, right? The whole, hey, people joining clubs, that's fluff. However, friendships made on Xbox Live or anywhere is important because it shows that the game is doing what it was, one of its core things was to bring people together, right? And that kind of 500,000 new friends is indicative of that, and they can keep on. And you can find like-minded people to continue to play Sea of Thieves, right? So it seems like it's bringing people together. The people that really love it really love it. The people that really don't like it really don't like it. I think it was a success in the sense that it brought people to Game Pass and brought that exposure there. It also got people to waste their 14-day trial on Sea of Thieves, so that when when they go to play State of Decay 2, they do have to actually subscribe because each individual game doesn't have to be important anymore. It's as part of a thing in Game Pass. But anything else you guys say about Sea of Thieves stuff? The whole thing?
Man, the one thing that worries me about Sea of Thieves, and I've written an editorial on this to go live tomorrow, but it's a concern that Microsoft just can't scale to meet gamers' expectations now. Fortnite gets what feels like weekly updates, adding new guns, new cosmetics, and all this other stuff. Why can't Sea of Thieves do that? And fair enough, the game's only just launched, but I'm not confident that Sea of Thieves will ever match Fortnite for updates because they're a small studio, and I feel like Microsoft isn't giving them the money they need to grow. They're not really investing in the company. I've been to Rare twice, and it is small. It's a small operation. They don't have that many dev offices there. And I can't help but feel like they could do with a lot more staff. And I feel like Microsoft has a real opportunity here to make the game they wanted Fable Legends to be, a service-driven game with monetization, with the the cats they're gonna add, the pets they're gonna add, and stuff like that. A service-driven game, multiplayer first, cloud first, all that stuff, great. But Microsoft, I don't know if they're going to give Rare what the resources they need to realize that potential. And that is what frustrates me. Just, I don't know if I'm being cynical or pessimistic here, but they've got a real opportunity here to create a game that could, if it gets more features fast enough and really shows that it has a roadmap and a good command of how fast the updates need to come, they could have another Minecraft on their hands, man.
Yeah.
It's when I said, I tweeted that Sea of Thieves could be the next PUBG. When I said that, it was in view of the idea that they could ship these updates fast, because it was a comment from Rare in one of my interviews, and this is up on Windows Central. They said to me that they won't wait for big marketable patches to add. They said they wouldn't wait for big marketable patches to add content to the game. They would add it to the game as soon as it's ready. So, like, if they've got a new gun, they've got cosmetics to add, they would add those to the game straight away, kind of like what Fortnite does. And that made me excited, because it's kind of like, that's what they need to do. They need to do this to, keep the game updated and keep it engaging and keep it fresh. And that's what Fortnite does. They added a new crossbow, and they added a rocket guided remote guided rocket launcher to just today, I think, which is going to change the game up. It's going to change the meta. It's going to change the way the game works and keep it fresh and stuff like that. Now, like I say, it's only been out for a week. They've got launch issues to fix. They've got server scalabilities to sort out. They made people re-download the whole game this week because they've changed the underlying engine. So, they do have the launch issues to work through first, and the scalability and stuff like that. And maybe now that things have calmed down a bit and less people have, you get the launch week rush, tons of people playing it, and maybe it'll calm down a bit and they can actually go towards shipping the content. It's going to be interesting to see whether they actually do deliver content fast enough. And this isn't pessimism towards Rare by any means, because I know Rare has the talent to deliver this stuff. It's more pessimism towards Microsoft, because I've seen how slow the updates have come to Cortana, how slow the updates have come to, the Windows Store and stuff like that, and like Xbox is a different team to the Windows team, but it feels like across all of Microsoft, there's this sort of complacency. There's this lack of urgency about the whole company, and I don't know what it is. And I feel like they're going to have this lack of urgency towards Sea of Thieves. And I just really hope they prove me wrong and just prove that I'm cynical and a pessimist. And I really hope they do. But
Right.
I'm not confident in Xbox or Microsoft to deliver at the minute.
I got a couple shout outs I got to do. The Ravenflow for the super chat. He says, your word is more relevant to Polygon in my opinion. Well, thank you. Hopefully you guys do enjoy my reviews. And also Ryan Hicks, he says, times are hard, chaps. Sorry, but love the show. Well, we appreciate your support. We know, times are hard for everybody, but just being here, watching the show, hitting the like button, sharing it out, commentating in chat is always awesome. But Jez, there was the thing about Sea of Thieves I want to talk about, because I've seen people defend Sea of Thieves in a way that I don't understand. Like, they say that you can't really judge Sea of Thieves now because it's a games as a service game which will grow over time, and that a year from now it have a whole bunch of content, so it's not fair. I don't like that line of thinking, because I'm playing Sea of Thieves at this moment, and at this moment I feel it lacks stuff. Will it be better in a year? Quite possibly, just like No Man's Sky. But I feel that defense of like, you can't judge it now because it's games as a service and games as a service are different is kind of a bullshit reason. Like it's kind of this way for people saying like your review's invalid because it's going to be better in a year. It's like, well, why wasn't this stuff here now? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't get that defense. And they always point to like something like Rainbow Six. Like, look at Rainbow Six at launch, Rainbow Six Siege, that is. nobody liked it, and now it's like one of the biggest games in the world. It's like, well, yeah, nobody liked it in the beginning because it was lacking certain things and the gameplay wasn't as good. They spent all this time fixing it, and yeah, it's better now, and it's one of the biggest games. But the reviews from the beginning were accurate because you are reviewing the game as it's being released right now. I'm not reviewing Sea of Thieves with the hope of it being better a year from now. Oh, I swear, YouTube YouTube really, they like, okay, so when you do a video on YouTube, right? They listen to everything you say with an algorithm, and you're allowed to say certain cuss words a certain amount of times before they would flag it for demonetization. So it's a couple thing, sometimes I'll say one or whatever, because I want to keep the video monetized, but also we put these on iTunes and Google Play, and if you swear during iTunes, they'll they put it as a mature only podcast, right, Jazz? Which kind of limits your listenership. So we kind of made the conscious choice of not swearing, so we didn't get that label on iTunes. Sometimes it's too tough. Sometimes you want to get out those F bombs,
Yeah, I think like I love swearing. It's my favorite thing in the whole world. But I also want as many people to hear Rand's podcast as possible because Rand's my buddy, man.
You're my pal. But what do you think about Jazz? I mean, what do you think about this idea that you can't judge Sea of Thieves now because it's games as a service and it'll be better later? Do you think that's a little hypocritical or just wrong?
Yeah, if people are genuinely I mean, sometimes we ascribe hypocrisy to a group of people, but if there is a single person that is saying is applying a double standard to one game and the other, then fair enough. But the fact of the matter remains, Sea of Thieves isn't an early access game. It was sold at full price. It was marketed like a AAA game with live action trailers and stuff like that, which Microsoft can't seem to resist doing. Why do they do that? They make these AAA trailers for games that perhaps aren't AAA. And I think it is fair to criticize Sea of Thieves and say that the content in the game isn't as much as you might have expected from the way they presented it. And certainly, I had expected more content from just based on my assumptions from the interviews I did. And maybe I'm an idiot. Maybe I just got sucked into the hype as well, and sucked into Microsoft marketing as well. And that's on me. But I do think it's really stupid to apply a double standard to anything. Just because Sea of Thieves is an Xbox exclusive and No Man's Sky was, for a long time considered to be a PlayStation exclusive, you can't just have a double standard there. If the game isn't fun now, then it deserves to be criticized. If a game gets improved in 2 years, then play it. Great. You judge a game on its current state. That's the common sense thing to do.
Yeah. And also some of the people, I put up my review for Sea of Thieves after about 20 hours, right? I got level 20 with all the factions. I felt that was a good barometer for what the game offered. I felt I had seen all the islands. I had done everything in the game multiple times. I had done the Skull Fort. The only thing I didn't get to experience before the review was the Kraken, which I have now experienced, and it's lame. Like, that's kind of one of my biggest disappointments was how lame the Kraken fight was.
Is it lame? I still haven't.
Oh, it's incredibly lame. It's incredibly lame. It's just tentacles that don't basically. Yeah, it's incredibly lame. But
it really annoys me as well because they showed me a Kraken teaser trailer at Rare, and it was shot from the trailer was shot from the Kraken's point of view, which gave me the idea that the Kraken had a body because they did it from a first person perspective of the Kraken. So I was under the assumption that it wasn't just tentacles poking up out the water. I was under the assumption that this was an actual creature that was full, like, because it is just tentacles popping up out the water, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the teaser trailer they showed to me gave me the impression that it was actually a full monster, and so I'm pretty gutted about that. And I think that's why they showed it to press but didn't show it to the public, because it kind of was misleading now that I think about it.
Little J with the super chat, thank you. He says Crackdown 3 stomps Spider-Man in every way except for the story, in my honest opinion. They just want to bash the art style. Be honest, nobody plays Crackdown for the story. Well, I mean, you're entitled to your opinion. I'm looking forward to both games. But I mean, you are right in the sense that nobody plays Crackdown for the story. That is 100% true. Now, one of the other things about Sea of Thieves that people were concerned about in the review, like I said, I experienced everything you could in the game after 20 hours. But people would be like, Rand, you didn't become Pirate Legend. That is the end game. But like it was like, okay, well, you got to become level 50 with all the factions to get Pirate Legend. Like it changes the game. It adds all these new quests. It's the end game to Sea of Thieves. And then people were like holding on to that hope that it would like somehow fundamentally change what the game is. But of course, I knew deep down that it wouldn't, because it would. And either way, someone actually has become Pirate Legend in Sea of Thieves, and they got to experience what it offers. And Jez, what happens when you become Pirate Legend? Tell the kind people here on YouTube as well as iTunes and Google Play and Podcaster. What exactly happens when you get to be Pirate Legend?
Well, first of all, I think we're going to have different opinions on this. But when you get to be Pirate Legend, you get cool looking armor, cool looking cosmetic options, and you get more trading, kill quests, and treasure hunts.
You do get a new ship, right?
You get a new ship.
You do get new quest givers and like a hideout, right?
Yes, but the gameplay loop is basically the same. Now, I'm going to tell you a story around, because
really fast though, shout out to the Ravenflow for the super chat. The Kraken fight was better in God of War on PS2. See it. I agree with that. Moving on. Go ahead. Story time with Jez. Everybody sit down by the campfire, get your s'mores out. Uncle Jez or Father Jez was gonna tell us a story.
Yeah. And after this, we need to take some questions. I need to go because it's nearly midnight here.
Okay.
Rare have always touted the power of cosmetics in their game, and they've always said cosmetics are important in Sea of Thieves because it's part of the whole role play layer of the game and stuff like that. And most people would think, man, it's so lame that all you get after all this grind is a bunch of cosmetics. Now, it could be true that the person who unlock the Pirate Legend stuff, maybe they think it's lame. Maybe they don't care about cosmetics, and all this stuff is just stupid to them, and maybe they were disappointed and stuff like that because they were expecting gameplay differences. But the thing is, Rand, and this is another World of Warcraft story. In World of Warcraft, in the Burning Crusade expansion, I was like raiding at a server first level, which means I was in a guild that was hardcore enough to kill bosses before anyone else, and on the server. And I was the first warlock on my server to get a full set of Corruptor's armor. I didn't care how powerful it was, and it was powerful, but what I cared about was how damn cool it looked. I walked through Stormwind, and I had a huge crowd gathering around me. People were whispering me, saying, "Oh my god, your armor looks so badass," because no one else on the server had that. And honestly, it was the best feeling I've ever had in a game. And maybe that's sad, because I am just dressing up a digital Barbie doll at the end of the day. But that's what these games are. They're social experiences, right? And I had killed Kael'thas a million times, and I'd wiped on Lady Vash like millions and millions of times, and I'd earned this armor, right? And I was so proud of myself for getting this armor. And it felt amazing. And everyone was saying all this cool stuff to me. Now, that guy who became the first Pirate Legend, Rare will immortalize him in the game. They'll do something in the game that will immortalize his achievement, because that's what Rare has done.
But did you hear about how he did this though?
No.
Because it's kind of cheating.
Oh, go on.
So the reason he was able to get there so fast was because different groups who knew he was going for it would invite him to their game when they were trading in all their chests, and then he would join their game, join their party, trade in all the chests and get the experience, and then go to a different group who was about to trade in all their stuff. and then joined their game as they traded in their treasure, and then
Uh,
and kept. That's what he did.
but the thing is, in order for him to have done that, he needed to have like the charisma and stuff to do it. He
Well, he's
didn't
a
cheat.
popular Twitch streamer.
Well, exactly. I mean, yeah, it's cheesy, but is it cheating necessarily? To
I
use his
mean,
influence.
no,
That's what
it's
a
not.
pirate. That's
It's
what a
not
pirate
really
would do.
cheating. I'm just saying it's not he. It's not like somebody sat there and did it themselves the entire time.
But
Like
the game's just a grind.
no, you're right. The game is
Do
just a
the same
grind.
thing there's no skill involved with becoming a pirate legend, really. It's just a bit of luck and a lot of grinding. And he was just like he was being a smart pirate. And he used his charisma and influence to. I mean, if you want to talk about it in Sea of Thieves terms, he used his charisma and influence to basically persuade other pirates to give them a share of his loot, of their loot. So I wouldn't take anything away from that achievement. But either way, Rare's going to immortalize him in the game somehow, like they did in the beta. Like there are taverns named after players and stuff like that. He'll get some kind of honor for that, and he'll be in that game for as long as the servers stay live. And maybe that's lame. Maybe most people think that's lame. But for me, the fact that I got that full set of Corruptor's gear in the Burning Crusade all those years ago, that's a gaming memory that I've kept with me forever. And some gamers will value that more than a cinematic Hollywood motion captured cutscene at the end of the game or something. So that's my take on it.
No, it's just interesting to see like people held up the whole pirate legend thing as this game changing thing when it's just in line with what you would expect. More cosmetic options for achieving that prestigious rank, and then just more quests that are just longer. It is kind of what the game is. But like Jess said, story time's over. He does have to get going, but we're going to take a couple questions first. So if you want us to answer your questions, make sure you put them in chat. Um, and yeah, we'll answer some and then get out of here. So I want to thank you guys for, of course, watching here live on YouTube. I think we had over like 400 at one point. Make sure you hit the like button, all that stuff. Thank you guys for listening on Google Play and iTunes and things. So hit us up with the questions. Ask Jez what his favorite liquor is, or what my favorite Barbie game is on the Xbox. We'll answer it, and then we'll get out of here.
Yeah, thanks for all the support, guys. We love you and appreciate you, but it's midnight here and I've got to go to bed.
Yeah, and considering Jess was telling me the podcast is doing well on iTunes and other places, and we didn't even put this up until like after a year, basically. So people are discovering the show on iTunes and things like that. So, which is always cool. More people to discover what you're doing and stuff like that. So,
Best aged cheese.
I'm always a fan of American cheese. Yeah, that's just me.
I don't know, American. Well, I haven't had much American cheese, but I always find American cheese to be really plasticky, man. I
Am
mean,
I a Sony pony? Says like you, Rhonda Forbes. No, I wouldn't consider myself a Sony pony. I'm sorry. I guess if you had to label me like a fanboy moniker, since I play Xbox the most, I guess I'm an Xbot. I don't know.
will Jez be playing God of War when it launches next month?
Ooh.
God of War is one game that is tipping me over. Rand. We'll have to wait and
Mhm.
see. We'll have to wait and see. God of War looks excellent, and it looks like the kind of game I like. Bloodborne almost tipped me over. God of War is really nearly there, and there are a lot of good exclusives on PlayStation. I still have never played The Last of Us.
Yeah, dude, God of War is gonna be crazy. 420 can't come soon enough.
Hashtag 420.
Dude, that game's gonna, yeah, that game.
What are your expectations on State of Decay 2 content wise? Now, I am not watching the IGN coverage of State of Decay because after Sea of Thieves, I kind of don't want to get sucked in again. I don't want to have expectations and be disappointed because I'm a huge fan of State of Decay. I played the first one loads, but I also played it with the mindset that this is basically an early access digital only game. And Undead Labs have got they've got a little following, a little community. Undead Labs have their own forum, and they've got a really dedicated community of passionate people who have been following the State of Decay project for years and years and years and years. Because State of Decay Undead Labs was founded by Jeff Strain, who worked on the original World of Warcraft, believe it or not. And State of Decay has always been designed to one day become a massively multiplayer game. You know, State of Decay 2 is a step along that journey. So when I saw State of Decay at E3 last year, and I do have a preview up of State of Decay, I was a bit disappointed because it all looked like it was the same monsters, the same gameplay loop, even the UI was the same and stuff like that. But from what IGN's shown, the game has grown a lot since last summer. So I'm pretty optimistic about State of Decay 2, I think.
It's gonna be pretty funny that you won't be hyped up for it because of your disappointment with Sea of Thieves and being hyped up for that, and then State of Decay actually comes out and is worthy of the hype.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, and the thing is, I'm not disappointed with Sea of Thieves per se. I was hoping it'd be more of a game for me. I was hoping there'd be more stuff to do if you're a solo player. You know, that's why I railed about fishing so much, because I wanted more simulation in my sim, but I didn't get it. So I don't know.
Manuel Meza says, "Do we actually know when the content for Sea of Thieves would be ready?" Weren't they talking about like 3 months after the game came out or something?
No,
Or was that for
they're gonna release a big patch in a few months after release, and that's the patch that's going to bring pets to the game. They've always said to me that they will release smaller content like new cosmetics, new weapons, blah blah blah, as and when they're ready. So we have to assume that everyone at Rare is currently working on the launch issues with the game, scaling up, and hopefully we'll start to hear about a roadmap or updates very soon. Otherwise, it could be dead in the water. To add upon the round. Do you like that?
Face 23 BKN1. He says, "Has Rand sent an email for a review copy of God of War?" That's interesting. I would love to. Unfortunately, I don't have any contacts at Sony of America, and I hear it's very hard to get those contacts. And while I would love to get one and email and say, "Hey, I would love to review your game," I don't think that's probably going to happen. I'm not that big of a YouTuber, and I don't know anybody at Sony like I do at Microsoft and other places. So I'm just going to end up buying the game because I do want to play it. But yeah, I don't have a contact at. I don't know anybody, and I don't have a contact for Sony of America. That's pretty much it for that one. Anything else here you want to answer, Jez? You see any other questions?
I think we're good, man.
Okay, Jez. I think the coffee is worn off on Jez. The story time took it out of him. So
I'm just all nostalgic about the Burning Crusade now, and I just, I used to roll out of bed, roll into my chair, and just play WoW all day. Go back to bed. Unemployed. I was unemployed. I just used to play WoW all day, every day, and it was amazing.
The good old days, huh? The good old days. But anyways, guys, that is the show for today. Make sure you hit that like button on your way out. Share out this link on Twitter so more people can see the show. Thank you for watching live with us on YouTube. Everybody that commented, everybody that left us a super chat donation, we really appreciate those. Thank you if you're listening to this later on iTunes or Google Play or wherever you may be. We appreciate you as well. It would be so kind if you would rate the podcast and write a good review, bad review, however you feel about the show. All that stuff. Jez, what are you doing the rest of the week? What's on your agenda?
Well, for the rest of the week, I'm going to be working all day tomorrow, and I'm also my Sea of Thieves editorial on the way. I think the future should be that I'll go up on Windows Central tomorrow. Other than that, I might be heading out to California.
Ooh.
To check out a game.
Road trip.
That's a road trip. That's interesting.
Yeah. If you want to, make sure you follow Jez on Twitter. Twitter description is always in the link in the description of these podcasts, as well as the links to the iTunes, Google Play, and stuff. If you want to catch this whenever you want without having to worry about YouTube, because I know people sometimes don't want to have to deal with YouTube. It's all there for you guys to check out. As for me, I'll be dropping videos. I don't really know what I'm playing next. I kind of want to finish God of War 3 since I'm done with Far Cry, but then I also want to play Doom and a whole bunch of other games in my backlog because it doesn't really seem like anything is coming out anytime soon until Hellblade. So thank you guys for watching. This has been Rand and Jez for the Xbox 2 podcast. And we will see you next week, hopefully on Wednesday. I know today was Thursday, but yeah, be good.
Peace
Later.
out.